Okay, right, lesson 17. We're getting towards the end now. This one and then one more left, and then you've finished the Russian Revolution revision guide. So, new economic policy, the NEP. Right. What is it and why is it needed? Well, we've kind of established why it was needed when we looked at the consequences of war communism and the Kronstadt naval mutiny, almost as a result of war communism. Basically, to recap, there aren't enough, or there isn't enough food in the cities. Grain production has dropped 42% since the First World War, and factory production by almost 80%. This is before the First World War. For a communist system that has promised its people food and abundance and wealth beyond their dreams and blah, 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 this is not very good. Yeah. I mean, the party of the factory workers has overseen a decline of factory production by almost 80% since the king's time, since the Tsar's time. Doesn't look good, does it, for the communists? So we need a change, and people are saying we need change, but Lenin's refusing to do so until the Kronstadt naval mutiny basically shakes Lenin's belief and faith and trust in his own people. And he says, well, if the sailors are willing to mutiny against us, then that's big problems for us. We need to make a change. So that's what he does. The new economic policy comes in and it replaces war communism. What does it do? Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Number one, he hires foreign experts from Germany, from Britain, from France, from America, and they come over to help run the country, run the factories, and they are paid more as almost like consultants to work alongside the Russian workers. And they use their knowledge of the capitalist systems in those countries to improve the productivity of the factories in the Soviet Union. So we'll come to starting to look almost like a betrayal of communism, isn't it? And as we go on, we'll see that is precisely what people call this. Yeah, how can a communist system be leaning so heavily on capitalist people and capitalist ways? So let's see what else they do. Grain requisitioning comes to an end. So the kulaks, remember those rich farmers out in the countryside, the richer peasants, or any peasant really that was trying to hide a sheep or a cow or a goat or a piece of grain, whatever it might be. Good news for them. And it gives even better news for them. They are now allowed to grow their own food and sell it at a profit. All they've got to do is pay a 10% tax. That seems pretty reasonable. And suddenly grain production and agricultural production, we'll see in the consequences section over here, rises dramatically and food shortages come to an end. And so it seems to be that the capitalist way of building incentives into a system, e.g. profit, like if you work hard, Mr. Peasant Man, and you grow lots and lots of food, then you can go away and you can sell that food and you can take that extra money and spend it however you like. That's quite attractive. That gets people working. That gets people investing and coming up with new ways of growing food. And so that's what happens. The countryside starts to grow more food. What else does they do? They unleash capitalism again on a small scale. Any business that hires 20 or less people can operate as a business with profits to be made and business and managers and workers, and they can hire and fire people. And this is a godsend for the Russian people at this time because they had been suffering. Remember, war communism was good at getting the army the stuff that they needed, but it was terrible at producing the everyday consumer items that people wanted. Clothing, kitchenware, tableware, silverware, the stuff that people need to buy every week, every month, every year, just wasn't being made anymore. And these small little businesses would produce that stuff. And to underline all this and to support it, they introduced a new currency. I don't know how you pronounce it. Chauvinets. Let's go for that, right? This new currency is introduced to kind of underline the new economic policy, right? So apologies for not being able to pronounce it. My field is, I should know how to pronounce it. I'll look it up for you next time, guys and girls. Do apologize there. Not a fluent Russian speaker. This is my problem. Right, consequences. So we've got agricultural production rises dramatically, like I said. Traders begin to, and this is one of the good things about the sort of capitalist system, if you like, it's good at getting stuff to the right place. So if in the countryside people wanted shoes, well, then a tradesman would go to one of these maybe new businesses or one of these factories in the cities, fill up a wagon, fill up a suitcase full of shoes, and get themselves out to that country village and to sell the people there the shoes that they want. That wasn't happening before because the state, when it was in control, this is one of the big problems with communism, isn't it? Certainly sort of a centralized system, centralized planning for your economy, you do get situations like this where, okay, fine, a central government might be able to say, we shall produce 1 million pairs of shoes this year. Fine, but how are you going to get those 1 million pairs of shoes into the right places unless you've got tradesmen that are willing to, pick up from the suppliers and take it to the consumers or take it to the smaller shops and sell it? Centrally planning that kind of logistics is quite difficult. And it's better done with people just acting off their own initiative. So these traders come in and they start to get people the things that they want. Sort of wheelers, dealers, traders, and these people actually have their own name. Move my head over here, called the Netmen, right? Obviously, NEP, New Economic Policy Men. The Netmen emerged, and they almost become a new middle class, if you like, just over the few years that this thing runs, or the middle class starts to kind of grow again through the Netmen. They've got money to spend on luxury items. They can start to go to some of the fancier restaurants. They create demand for new products and new services that weren't there before. And so this is Russia starting to kind of pick itself up again after the First World War, after the Revolution, after the Civil War. 3 tragedies, one after the other. War, communism being introduced, a 4th tragedy, if you like. Russia's on its knees, and it's being picked back up again by these Netmen, by this capitalist system that's starting to get things moving. And it's almost out of necessity. Lenin would rather not do this, but he knows that if he doesn't do something, his people are going to starve. The Bolsheviks are not going to become popular. He'll probably be kicked out by another revolution, a counter-revolution maybe. And so this is what he does. This is what he tries to introduce. But of course, those die-hard communists, those die-hard Bolsheviks, they're not very happy with this. And they start to talk about Lenin having, few people directly criticize Lenin because he was a bit of a legend at the time and still is, as we're going to see in the next session. But people did start to mutter around the edges that maybe the Bolshevik Party was betraying Bolshevik beliefs by introducing the new economic policy. Like I say, it was out of necessity. They hadn't given up being communist, but it was either be a little bit capitalist or starve to death. And so they chose to be a little bit capitalist and give communism a go later on, which is what they do. But there you go. This is the new economic policy. Fascinating stuff. And I'll see you in the next session.